I absolutely love baby names. I have kept lists of names since I was a young teenager. I am not planning to have more children at the moment, but I still look at names. I just love it, and that's one of the reasons why I really like SJ Strum's channel, because she does regular series on baby names. She is a baby name expert, and I love just seeing her lists and talking about baby names. So when I saw that she has done a brand new baby name tag for YouTubers to join in with, I knew that I really wanted to film it. I will put the questions in the description box, and I'll also link to SJ's channel so you can find her if you don't already follow her. And here it is, here's my baby name tag video. Question number 1, if you had a baby tomorrow, what would you call them? Gosh, okay, for a boy, I know 100% what I would call them, and that is Bay. Bay was a name that I really wanted to use for Otto, but it got vetoed immediately by Sam, who had an issue with any hippie sounding nature names, and also did not like that it sounded like Bay, as in B-A-E, like the slang term. I fought really hard for Bay, but alas, didn't happen, and obviously we love the name Otto as well. Now, a girl's name, if I had a girl tomorrow, now that is really tricky, because obviously I have 3 boys. I have a lot of experience at looking at lists of baby boys' names, but if I found out I was having a girl tomorrow, I honestly would want more time to look through lists and make sure we'd picked the perfect name. So it's a little bit of a cheat to that question. I'm not actually going to answer it, but I will say that we've always had a front runner girl's name, and currently I'd say we've probably got 3 names that I'd have to think really carefully between if I was having a girl tomorrow, and some of those names I will talk about in a minute. Question 2, what would you rename yourself, keeping your same first initial? Well, my name's Chloe. I actually really like the name Chloe. I think my parents did really well, because it hasn't dated, it still feels quite modern, and I like modern names, so I'm kind of happy with my name. But I guess if I was going to rename myself with another name beginning with C, I would maybe go for Cecily, because I really like that name. What would you have been, or wish you had been called, if you were the opposite gender? Well, my brothers are called Robin and Max. My brother Robin is the eldest, and I do know that my parents were going to call their baby Robin regardless of whether it was a girl or a boy, so I guess if I had been the eldest, then that would be my name. I also really like the name Max, so again I think my parents have done quite well there, and I guess those might have been my names if I was a boy. And what would I wish to be called if I were a boy? I don't really know, but just I wouldn't like anything too American, like Brandon or something like that, and I also wouldn't want to be your bog standard name like Thomas. Favourite vintage name for a boy and a girl? My favourite girl's vintage name is Vera. I absolutely love it. I'm not really a massive fan of vintage names for children. I prefer to go a little bit more modern with my baby names, but I saw a girl who was probably about 4 or 5 on a train ages ago now, and her name was Vera, and I just fell in love with it. It just suited her so much, and I could suddenly see it as something that wasn't just an old lady name, and I've always liked it since then. Vintage boys' names are really not my style at all, but I do have a few that I really love. One of those is Archie. My family dog when I was growing up was called Archie, and it was actually what I wanted to call Arlo, our first child, and I fought quite hard for Archie, and I'm now quite pleased that I didn't call him Archie, but I do still like the name. And I also quite like Gregory, which is really old-fashioned now. You don't get any baby Gregs or Gregorys, but I suppose it has a similar sound to Rory. Favourite nature name for a boy and a girl? Well, I've mentioned Bay already. Bay is my absolute favourite nature name. I would use it for a girl or a boy. It's one of my 3 name choices that I mentioned earlier that I'd have to think very carefully about if I was naming another baby. And for girls, I really love Neve, spelled N-E-V-E, which means snow. I think that is such a pretty name, and I've always liked Neve, the Irish name, but this is just a slightly different version of it with the same sound that I've always loved and has been on my girls list for a long time. And then my favourite flower name is Magnolia. Again, no surprise, it has a lovely soft O sound in it, which are my favourite kind of names. You can shorten it, I think it's really pretty, and it's not your standard flower name, so I really love Magnolia for a girl. Favourite YouTuber's name or baby name? There are loads that I really love. Amber from Meet the Wilds, her girls' names, especially Embla and Olympia, I love. There are quite a few bloggers and YouTubers with Arlos, which I really love. Obviously, I've got an Arlo. What is your favourite literary baby name? I absolutely love Dickens. I did my dissertation at uni on Dickens, and basically most names in his novels I love. I loved Dora for a long while until Dora the Explorer kind of ruined that. Estella I thought was a really pretty name, and I've always loved Stella, but Estella I just thought gave it a little bit more femininity. Pip is a really cute boy's name for a baby. I'd maybe use that more as a nickname than their actual name, but I really like Pip. But my absolute favourite Dickens name is Agnes. I adore the name Agnes. I don't think I would use it for a child because I don't like any of the nicknames that come from Agnes, but I really love Agnes. Favourite O name that isn't Oliver or Olivia? Well, this is a great question for me because O names are my absolute favourite, and I have an Arlo, a Rory and an Otto, which are all very heavy in the O sounds. It's like my absolute favourite sound in a name because it's gentle and also strong, and there's just a nice simplicity to short O names. This question is probably meant to be names that begin with O, but I'm kind of going to answer it from a perspective of just names that have O sounds in them. I have 2 boys' names and 2 girls' names. The first name is Ocean, which is a Welsh name. I think it's like top 5 popular boys' names if you live in certain parts of Wales, but it's relatively unheard of where we are in London, and it is the Welsh derivative of Oisin, which is the Irish version, and it's from the kind of Irish legend, and I think it means little deer. I adore this name. I adore the Oshi nicknames from it. When I was pregnant with Otto, Ocean was the absolute front runner for his name. It was between that and Bay, even though Bay had been vetoed by Sam. I really wanted to call him Ocean, and Sam liked it as well, and I loved that he would be baby Osh or baby Oshi. I just thought it was such a lovely sounding name, but in the end it felt like we were trying too hard to make it happen because neither of us are Welsh ourselves, and the name is pretty much unheard of where we live, and I was worried that he would always have to spell his name when the teacher called out his name in the register, and I didn't want to saddle him with that. So in the end we had to let it go because it just didn't seem to work really for our family. But I adore that name, and every time I hear it mentioned it has a special place in my heart. And another O sounding boy's name that I love but didn't end up using for any of my 3 boys is Mateo. I've always loved that name. And 2 O sounding girls' names that I've always loved are Indigo and Ione. Indigo I actually think could be used for a boy as well. It was always on my girls' names list, but if we were to have another boy tomorrow I would strongly consider it for a boy because I think I'd have to start eating into my unisex names from my girls' list. I love the shortening to Indy. Back when we were pregnant with Arlo, we strongly considered going with Indigo or Indiana so that we could have Indy as a nickname. So that's still really high up on my list. I'm still really fond of Indigo or Indy. And Ione, I just think sounds really cool. It's a short, spunky name, which I love. I don't know any other Iones in real life, and I just really love it. What did you wish you were called when you were younger? Well, I had 2 distinct phases. One was the American name phase where I wished that my name was something like Brooke or Morgan, you know, those really like surnamey sounding names, which I would absolutely hate to be called now, but as like a kind of tween young teenager I thought that was the height of cool. And then there was the other phase a little bit later on where I wished I was called something really mysterious and naturey and just something really unusual. What name would you or did you immediately veto? Anything in the top kind of 10 most popular girls and boys names. There are obviously some lovely names in those really popular lists, but I think I just automatically turn off to any name that I know is like really used a lot. So any of those, like I never would have had an Oliver or an Olivia, even though I really like the name Oliver. It's a really lovely O name. I just immediately was not interested if it was in the kind of top 10 of those popular lists. And another name that we immediately vetoed, which I love, one of my favourite boys' names is Jessie, but Sam has a sister called Jessica, so that would have been really confusing, so that was immediately vetoed from the very beginning. That's all the questions. They are down below in the description box if you want to film this video yourself. I'd love to hear your baby names that you love but didn't use for one reason or another, the names that got away. I'm always interested in those ones. Very soon I'm also planning to film a video on the baby girls' names that we love but haven't used, so look out for that if you're interested in watching it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.